Here we go. All right, so quadratic formula is a way to solve quadratics, hence quadratic formula. We've talked about a lot of different ways to solve. We've completed the square. That's what we've worked on the past 2 days. We have factored and solved, guys. We have SAD map to solve, and now we're going to use quadratic formula. Here's what has to happen with quadratic formula. When I have a quadratic, it has to be equal to 0 before I start, okay? So if it doesn't, you have to make it. Must equal 0. Once it equals 0, okay? And this is one of those things, yes?
What signifies a quadratic?
It means there's an exponent of 2 on the x. Guys, I need you up here, okay? I'm not teaching this for me because I know how to do it. I'm teaching this because you don't. Quadratic means there's an exponent of 2 on the x. Grayson, to answer your question. All right, so it's got to equal 0. And I want to identify the a, the b, and the c the same way we did whenever we graphed quadratics. When we said a equals this, b equals this, and c equals that. And there's a formula. This is a plug and chug section, okay? The formula is long and complicated, but it's literally plug in. So let me give you the formula. X equals opposite b. Okay, I say opposite b even though this looks like negative b, and the reason for that is because if it starts out negative, it's going to change to what? Positive. All right, opposite b plus or minus the square root. This is the quadratic formula. B squared minus 4ac. I told you. All divided by 2a. Okay? The hardest part about this is going in the right order when you simplify it. Okay? So the order you need to go in is under the radical first. Then you're going to simplify the radical. Remember how we talked about simplifying radicals where we took a perfect square out? Yes, Miss McGee. And then from there we can simplify the fraction, the whole fraction. So be very careful as you go through. The 2a, everything up top is over 2a. It's not just the radical, it's not just the b, it's everything goes over 2a. Okay? Remember, if one of the a, the b, or the c are missing, then what are they? 0. Always 0. Okay? Tell me when y'all got this and we'll do an example. Things to check before you set up, okay? To use the quadratic formula. Make sure, if it doesn't already, make sure it equals 0. Okay? In the case of this one, does it equal 0? Yes. Okay, so that's done. Next, if it doesn't, I will do one in a minute that doesn't, so you see what you have to do. Next, what you want to do is find A, B, and C. Okay? Looking at this equation, what is A?
X1.
The number in front of x squared here. No, that's okay.
3.
That's right. How about B? What is B? Negative 8. And how about C? Okay? Once you list A, B, and C, all it is a plug and chug kind of problem, okay? So I'm going to say plug in. Okay, guys. Aaron.
Plug in means.
Plug into the quadratic formula. That means, here's my formula. Everywhere you see an A, you're going to replace it with 3. Everywhere you see a B, what are you replacing it with? -8. And everywhere you see a C, -9. Yes, sir. It will when I plug it in. It will. It will. So when I plug it in, and Aaron had a good point, this is opposite B. So since B is negative in the equation, yes, Grayson.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's going to make -8 a positive 8?
That's exactly right. So this is going to be +8
Where'd you get the 4?
plus or minus. What 4? That's part of the formula.
Oh.
That's part of the formula. All right, B squared, so -8 squared.
Why is there like just a random 4?
It's just part of the formula. 4 times A times C. Actually, what happens, John, if you were to take ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 and you complete the square to solve it for x, like you move the bad c over, you find a good c, and you're only using variables, you get the quadratic formula. Just like that. I could show you, but everybody'd be going. So I'll just tell you, trust me, that this is how you find the value of x. All right. So I told you.
Not +4 ever. It's always -4.
It's always -4, yeah. Let me advise you, because I know where students make mistakes, okay? You're going to make sign errors, so be very careful. Remember what I told you when you're simplifying here? We want to go under the radical first, okay? So what is -8 squared? What is -8 times -8? 64, right? When you square a negative, you get a positive. Now be very, very careful right here, okay? Kobe, I would appreciate if you put that up. What is 4 times 3 times -9? 4 times 3 times -9.
Hey, why wouldn't you do -4?
Well, you will, but I kept the minus in there. 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times -9 is -108. Now I'm writing it this way to show you something, okay? And here's what I want to show you. Yes, this was minus, but look, I have 2 negatives here. So under the radical, remember, I'm showing you where you're going to mess up, because I see this all the time. Watch these signs. Subtracting a negative is the same thing as what? Somebody said it quietly. Adding a positive. That's exactly right. Okay? So this is actually going to become 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 plus 108 is what? 1. All right, so I told you work under the radical first. Then I told you to simplify the radical. So my question is, can I simplify this radical? What do I mean by simplify a radical?
Divide by the bottom number.
Well, can you divide 172 by any perfect square?
No.
Probably yes.
I'm going to guess yes. I'm not 100% on what it is right now.
No.
No? Can you divide it by 4 at least?
12.
12's not a perfect square.
43.
4 and what?
43.
4 and 43? So that would give me 4 and 43 over 6. And I do that because what's the square root of 4? 2. Square root of 43. Right? Now, here's what you can never, never, never do. You can never divide what's under the radical by what's on the bottom. What you can do is the number in front of the radical. Okay? So I could say 8, 2, and 6 are all divisible by what? 2. So I could say this is the same thing as 4 plus or minus 1 times the square root of 43 over 3. That's the answer.
You should go up on it.
Yep. It's a lot of work and simplification, but it's not, I mean, it's really just plugging in is what it's doing. You just have to remember the order to simplify it. Radical, simplify the radical, then simplify the fraction. It could be that when you get down, as you work through the quadratic formula, has everybody got this one? It is a lot.
Where I'm confused is
That's
that
why we wait till the end. Quadratic formula always works to solve. It's not always the most feasible to use because it is so much work, right? If I could factor and solve it, that's a lot easier, guys. That's a lot easier than going through the quadratic formula.
what I'm confused at is, can you go up a little bit
Yeah.
on where you did the, I guess the same change. Like, I don't know when I need to do that or when I don't. Like
Okay,
You
so
know what
if
I'm
this
talking about?
if this had been positive 9,
oh, you
okay,
wouldn't. You just do.
I would have
-4
gotten
times 3 times
64 minus 108.
9. So you would have done -4 times 3 times 9.
Right. Or, I mean, still, it's still going to be if you change it to -4, you have to change that to a plus in the middle. If you're multiplying by -4. You can literally look, watch this.
But there's a minus in front.
Watch this. -8, and you have to put that in parentheses, squared, minus, and you got to put this in parentheses, 4 times, what was A? 3, and what was C? -9.
But C supposed to be four's supposed to be.
I'm going to wait. If you went through and you got something, let's say I plugged in and I got 2 plus or minus the square root of 16 over 3. What's the square root of 16? 4. If you get something like this, well, now I got 2 real numbers without fractions in there, so I need to split it up. Remember what plus or minus means? 2 plus 4 over 3, or what? 2 minus 4 over 3. So that means the 2 answers are 6 over 3 or -2 over 3. See why I split it up that way this time? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Oh, my goodness. Let's do one more that's not in standard form before we start. Oh. Okay. Say my quadratic formula did not equal 0. Let's say, for instance, 6.
And what happens when it equals 0?
Let's mix it all up. This is from your classwork, by the way. Oh my gracious. This one's all mixed up, right? I need it to equal 0. What should I move? This should be 9x, I'm sorry. What should I move where and what should I do?
You should move the -3x to the where 4's at.
Okay, so you're moving the Grayson's not wrong. He's moving the order around so that the left side's in standard form, so I can identify my A, my B, and my C easily. That's perfect. You can do that. It's got to equal 0 though. That's my problem right now.
Can you combine like terms?
Which one? What do you want to move? Add the X. I hear add the X. Samara, that's right. Add the X. So now I've got, yes, make sure you add it with the like term. So I've got negative 3x squared plus 10x plus 4 equals 2. Minus the what? Look, I got to make it equal 0. What's keeping it from equal 0?
2.
The 2. You see that? So that's the one I'm going to move. I'm going to move the 2. I'm going to subtract 2.
Which one to add the x to, the 9 or the 3?
Because it's got to be like terms. You can't add x to 3x squared. So it's just squared on the x. All right, so I've got negative 3x squared plus 10x plus 2 equals 0. Are we confused? Are we okay? Okay. Most of them will be set up for you already, but in the case that they're not, here's how you do it. All right, what is A? How about B? And C? I'm going to write your formula right here for you. Remember, I will give you this formula and keep it handy. You're welcome. All right, ready? Let's plug and chug. Opposite B. So what's that?
Positive.
B. Opposite B.
Positive 3.
Opposite B.
Negative 10.
Negative 10. Plus or minus the square root. Now I need B squared. What is B squared? 100. So 10 squared, I'm going to write it as 10 squared. If you want to write it as 100, that's fine. Minus 4 times A. What is A? Negative 3. What's C? 2. Do y'all see what I'm doing? How I'm just plugging in these values to this equation?
Alright, so my question
2A.
is
Yeah.
D chain what it has to do, or just show me what you do now.
Okay. Under the radical first. So, yes, what I would do is I would take my calculator. 10 squared minus, I would do 10 squared minus 4 times, what was it? Negative 3. Ah, come on. Negative 3 times 2. What do you get under the radical? 124. Let your calculator do the heavy lifting for you. Don't do it. There's too many places to make mistakes there.
Well, I got negative 24.
Negative 24. Check your signs there. Make sure you did a negative 3 on that you did minus 4 times negative 3 times 2. How about 124? Can you simplify that any? I hear 12, but 12's not a perfect square. You can do 4. 4 times what? 4 times 31. Yeah. Just like we did before. So the square root of 4 is 2. So I get negative 10 plus or minus 2 root 31 over negative 6. What can I divide everybody by? 2. Don't ever divide what's under that square root. What would have happened if I had done this and this was negative 124? You would put an I in front of the radical. Everything else is the same, but you would put an I in front of the radical. See how we're kind of building on what we've already done and we're using what we learned in this section.
Show me put I just so I can see.
So if I had, hold on, let them finish copying this and then I'll show. Let's say I had started simplifying and I got something that looked like this. I worked my way through quadratic formula and I ended up with something that looks like this. This negative just means put an I on the outside. That's all I have to do.
I need the eyes to know what it is.
Yeah. Put it right in front of the radical. Questions?
Does that say 60 or 0.06?
I circled the negative sign. It was just square root of negative 6.
So is that our final answer? Or
Yes, that would be your final answer.
for the equation, last equation?
No, this is another example. All right, do I need to work another one? Are y'all okay? You sure? Okay. While I have left my